All right, hockey fans, welcome to the third episode of Snapshots, a hockey development podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Trimble. We're going to talk about this week kind of an important and current subject about summer camps versus tournaments. That's a really popular thing up here in northern New England is kids going to Massachusetts every weekend and playing in a lot of tournaments. And what actually helps players develop? Which is more long-term focused and better for your athlete, summer camps or tournaments? Okay, we want to help players and parents make some educated, smart decisions with their summer dollars for their youth athletes so that they get the most out of the experience and can really take their kids' game, or the kids can take their game from a good place in the summer into a accelerated pace in their regular season. You know, one of the biggest things that I've seen in my, 20 years of coaching, 30 years, I don't even know anymore, is that, hockey families every summer, they confuse activity with development. Players are skating nonstop. Yep. They have a bunch of camps lined up. Yep. They have a bunch of tournaments lined up, travel, showcases, spring teams, what are other things? Small group sessions, weekend camps. But at the end of the summers, a lot of players are exactly the same. They're thriving off, or they're surviving off burnout instead of thriving off enthusiasm. And that's a big differentiation. What summer should be about? You're only a kid once. I had a funny interaction with one of my favorite teachers in high school at my dad's funeral, Bob Lempa. He told me a story about how he used to moon my dad during freshman football season when they were just starting out. But we laughed, and he said, all kids, everybody is still a kid at heart. And that really resonated because, although you may be a kid in your heart, when you're 40, 50 years old, you're not a kid anymore. So you can only be a kid once. So it's important to manage a healthy balance of building confidence, getting enough reps where you can keep pace and build skills, but also kids being kids, enjoying the summer, swimming, play dates, pickup games, barbecues, backyard fires, getting into trouble. That stuff's all really, really positive. So think about that in terms of your long-term development. Now, camps, why are they great? What makes camps really good? You get high repetition environments. You get skill isolation. You get new coaches, which I think is phenomenal. You can't learn new skills all the time if you're getting the same repetitive things from just your coaches. Now, I think going to a skill instructor, like building a long-term relationship, would be really important, especially a goalie coach. But getting some different ideas, philosophies, and different drills in a camp environment, that's a good thing. Skill camps, there's shooting camps, there's college type camps where you're going to, I remember I went to Providence as a kid. I went to Cornell University at camp. I went to Army at West Point, their camp. And those really get you on a college campus, interacting with some of those college coaches, and it gives you kind of a snapshot into their environment. And that's really a lot of fun too. A good camp exposes weaknesses in a productive way. So you're getting more repetitions, you're getting more development, in my opinion. We'll get to that later, but more development in a cost-effective way oftentimes. The problem with too many tournaments I see are, although tournaments are fun and every kid loves going to the hotel and loves having meals with their buddies and competing for something, which definitely has its merits, there's very little actual teaching. Players chase results instead of the growth. So you can measure yourself. Well, we lost every summer tournament this year, and I must have not got any better. You don't really get that same kind of feeling at a camp environment where maybe you have one game at the end of the weekend or end of the week. And it's expensive. Families spend thousands and thousands of dollars. So you don't magically develop because you played 6 games in a weekend. You magically develop by repetition, building habits, learning, and growth. When tournaments do make sense, tournaments have a lot of value when you compete against strong players. As you get a little bit older, for showcase and exposure opportunities, for mental growth, and then combining a healthy mix of development first with competition second. That's how you have to frame your decision making oftentimes. Competition reveals your level, but development changes your level. What I'd recommend most for players, and it's really something to think about, an ideal summer formula. We're in May here, so you have about a month and a half until your summer really kicks off with the end of school, especially here in New England. But it's different, across other parts of the country. But that's kind of the normal framework of a 2.5 month or 2 month summer break. Choose a couple quality camps. They don't have to be full week camps, but they can be maybe a full week and then maybe like a position or skill specific camp, which can really, drill down into something that maybe your athlete is struggling with. But also then make sure that they're doing the other things, the independent training. So independent training includes shooting pucks and stick handling pucks in their basement, garage, outside, playing a little street hockey, playing a little bit of roller hockey, maybe if they're into that, or you have the access to that. It's not always accessible. Maybe make sure they're resting and recovering, watching some playoff hockey, watching what the best teams in the world are doing right now at this time of the year. Those are great things for the summer, and they don't cost a ton of money because burnout is real. I've said this many times on this podcast, even though it's only had a couple episodes, is that burnout is real. And the decisions you're making at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old can lead to negative decisions. What you think is the best for your athlete maybe changes rather quickly when they're 15, 16, 17, and they also want to have a different kind of social life. So choose a couple camps, maybe one tournament that can be in a unique, maybe playing for a different coach, maybe playing with some different players, maybe exposing your athlete to a different opportunity. So like if you're from here, from New England, maybe you get a chance to play in Canada, or maybe you get a chance to play, at one of the NA or the USHL combine, or one of those kind of cool experiences where the kids can learn something from it. I don't necessarily think that oftentimes those USHL and NA combine experiences, or even NCDC, produce players for that level, but it's an exposure opportunity. So you're getting seen by different coaches. And I do think there's so many merits to those environments. So really make sure you put up a plan in place, but also you give the plan to have downtime, time where your kid can enjoy being a kid, going to the beach, get on a boat, going into some birthday parties, maybe playing baseball, lacrosse, whatever it may be. Those also make them a much better hockey player. More hockey doesn't equal better hockey. So think about things in those contexts. The right environment matters more than the busiest schedule. You can put your kid in a 1-week camp that can really transform their game, or you could go to 5 tournaments all summer and not see a ton of progress. So think about where you're spending your dollars. In closing, if your player leaves the summer exhausted but unchanged, that's a failure. So you want to manage both, where they're really excited about the development they've made over the summer and engaged in their season ahead. Okay. But if they leave, but they don't want to have them where they're in a situation where they're already like, oh, well, now hockey practice starts and that goes on the way to, you want them to think like, okay, I'm excited. I want to get back on the ice, see my teammates, see my coach. We're going to have a great year because of the progress they made in the summer, not, in denial of that. If they leave more skilled, more confident, more motivated, you're doing something right. So think about that as you make your summer plans. Leave time for the family stuff, and you'll be in a good situation. Now, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Scoring Concepts. Scoring Concepts is my summer camp and clinic business. We run camps all throughout New Hampshire, throughout the different summer, a whole different criteria and curriculum for your athlete. AI Hockey Advisor. That's our new product launch. And you got to check it out. It's a really cool technology in which you can chat with an advisor that's fully honest and unbiased 24/7 for a very low fee and minimal cost compared to the cost of a human advisor who is not unbiased and isn't available all the time. My Substack is a great resource for the coaches that are listening to this. I'm very proud of the content we put on our Substack. And it can really give you drill ideas, season planning ideas, and really help you elevate what you're doing with your teams and your athletes. And then my newest sponsor, and I'm very proud to announce this. This is one of my favorite guys, a former player, Danny Cangelosi. We're going to be promoting his product all throughout this podcast. It's Mr. Lemon Stick Wax. So this episode is sponsored by Mr. Lemon Stick Wax, a hand-poured hockey and ice hockey wax made in the USA by hockey players. The New England Wolves have ordered Mr. Lemon Stick Wax for 3 consecutive seasons because of its long-lasting performance and consistent feel. Mr. Lemon Stick Wax helps keep the blade free from ice, snow, and water buildup while allowing players to apply the exact amount of tact they prefer. Plus, it smells really great. Mr. Lemon Stick Wax, grip it and rip it. Thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you check out this podcast on Spotify, and we'll have clips posted to our social media platforms. Thanks again.